Okay, let's move on to something different now. According to a study into LGBT parenting in Ireland presented earlier today at a conference in Dublin, the proposed introduction of equal marriage rights to Ireland will be key to tackling prejudice and stigma faced by LGBT parents and their children in Ireland. I'm delighted to be joined in studio by Dr Jane Pillinger, co-author of the study, by Linda Cullen, who is raising twin girls within a same-sex relationship, and in a moment we're also going to be joined on the line from London by Conor Prendergast, who grew up in a same-sex household. Dr Pillinger, if I could start with you first, just tell us a little bit about your research, what you found.
Okay, we carried out, this is research that was published last year, and we carried out a survey of 323 LGBT parents, that's lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender. The issues are slightly different for transgender parents, but I can say something about that in a moment. We wanted to find out what the situation is in terms of, first of all, people who are existing parents, from lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender, but also what's the situation, this is where the study is quite unique, for people planning parenthood as well. And the reality is that, family diversity is alive and kicking in Ireland. There's a significant, it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly how many LGBT families or same-sex headed families exist in Ireland, because there's no specific question in the census on it. But what we found from the research was that at least, I think it was around 16% of the people in the survey had no legal rights to be a parent, even though they were carrying out parenting relationships with their children.
How could that be?
They were the non-biological parents, and Linda's situation, who'll be speaking in a moment. So it's where a lesbian couple or two gay men may have planned to have a child together or children together, and the biological parent automatically has parenting rights and rights under the family, but not the non-biological mother. And one of the issues specifically that we found, and we 50% of people responding to the survey actually talked about discrimination, and they talked about discrimination largely on that basis, because obviously the situation in the Irish context is that the family under the Constitution is the institution that guarantees and accords parental rights to biological and non-biological parents. So if you're married and you're heterosexual, you are accorded rights as parents. But if you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, you have no rights at all if you are not the biological parent. So one of the reasons why the issue of marriage equality came out as being very, very important for the respondents to the survey was because marriage equality would give an equal constitutional protection for the family, particularly for the non-biological parents. Now, it doesn't obviously affect those parents that make a decision not to get married. And in fact, we're very encouraged by the fact that at the conference today, the Minister Shatter talked about the new Family and Relationships Bill, which is likely to lead to a whole transformation of the way that adoption, fostering, surrogacy, all of those mechanisms that people use for parenting will change, and change for the better in terms of giving equal rights. Okay,
let's bring in Linda Cullen, who's raising twin girls within a same-sex relationship. I mean, that issue, that kind of legal grey area that many gay and lesbian couples have to operate in, is that something that you think about on a day-to-day level? Is it something that bothers you?
I try not to think about it on a day-to-day level, but it is brought very acutely to mind quite often. If I have to, I'm the non-biological.
Yeah, tell us your circumstances.
Okay, so I'm myself, my partner, fell in love, decided to have children, very much like many, many couples. And we needed fertility treatment to help us in the quest to have a family. Again, like many, many parents do. And however, my situation is that even though we are civilly partnered, I have zero legal access to my children. But much more importantly is they have zero legal access to me. What that means in daily life is I can't sign consent for them in a hospital. Can't really sign particular consents in school, can't get them a passport, can't travel with them easily. So, and on a day-to-day, I suppose medically, that's the one that really gets to me. I've had a situation in a hospital where I was very, very badly treated, and my child was extremely ill, lying there on a gurney, and it was a horrendous situation. So I suppose, do I think about it daily? No, I think about, will they sleep at night? And I think about what I'm going to feed them, and I think about how I'm going to get them into school, and I think about when we should go to the park. But does it occur a lot? It does. The fact that I don't have those rights, or they don't have those rights, I suppose.
Okay, just before I bring in Conor Prendergast, Dr Pillinger, that situation, that grey area, would that be addressed by the legislation Alan Shatter is proposing, that I can't remember the exact title, the Family Relations Bill. Yeah. Would it be addressed by that, or does it require a change to the Constitution?
Well, there's two aspects for it. One is we need a change in the Constitution if equal civil marriage is to be introduced. That is very different from the provisions in the bill, which will apply to both non-married and married couples. So it will deal with this very grey, difficult area around adoption. I mean, at the moment, you can adopt if you're a single person, but as a couple, you can only adopt if you're married. It will give rights to adoption to non-married couples. Now, that obviously concerns heterosexual couples in significant ways, and as it does gay couples.
Okay.
So the combination of full marriage equality, so access to civil marriage, and dealing with all of the issues around surrogacy, fostering, adoption, and so on, will give equality across the board. Yeah.
Okay, now we've heard the parents' perspective. Let's talk to somebody, Conor Prendergast, who actually grew up in a same-sex household. He's joining us on the line. Conor, thanks for talking to us. You grew up in a same-sex household where I think it would be fair to say it would have been quite unusual at that time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Shane, and hi to Linda and Jane as well. So I was born in 1986 in London, and even in London at the time, we were some of the earliest children of same-sex couples. And then we moved to Ireland in 1995, and then we were definitely unique. So it was an interesting experience in some ways, but utterly boring and very run-of-the-mill in a lot of other ways.
Were you conscious that it was a different situation? Was it something that bothered you at all as a child?
Did it bother me? I wasn't bothered at all, actually. I felt a little bit more special, but after a while I realised that every single family was different anyway, and it was just that ours was different in this particular way. So it was interesting to learn. I mean, maybe it's part of spending a little bit of my formative years in London, but I learned a lot about diversity at a very early age, and in particular about familial diversity, and how the typical idea of a family being a mother, a father, and their kids is not, it's not actually representative of reality, and really families are aunts and uncles getting involved, grandparents getting involved, divorced parents.
What about, obvious question now, what about when you went into school and when you came over to Ireland and you said my parents are same sex? Did you get teased at school about it? Was it an issue with your friends and with your classmates?
No, not at all. I think looking back, I think I would have expected Ireland to be more conservative and reactive than it was and that it is now. From my peers, there was no hassle at all. The only bullying that we really got was because we were English in their eyes, and
and
it's a lot easier.
Sorry to cut across you. This would have been kind of roughly when you moved to Ireland, or early 90s.
96.
96.
Mid 90s. So still very, it was just around the time that homosexuality was decriminalised in Ireland. So pretty on the edge. But we got no hassle from our peers or from anyone really about being the kids of a same-sex couple, because I suppose it was so rare that no one had really anything to compare it to. And I mean, what are you going to say? It's a lot easier to pick on someone for being English than for being the son of a same-sex couple. What are they? I mean, your mums are lesbians. That must mean you're lesbian? I don't know.
Okay. Let me throw a question, and whoever wants to take this up, you can. I suppose the argument would be made, and I think there are listeners out there who I suppose would still want to be convinced about this issue, and it's something they may have to vote on in the future. What would you say to the argument that a child ideally should have a father and a mother, and that the father and the mother perform different roles, and they are at times, not always, but at times they can be exclusive? Linda, do you want to deal with that?
I'd love to answer that, because I'm currently rearing, myself and my partner are currently rearing 2 children. They're almost 4 years old, and people have very different roles in children's lives regardless of gender. So I'm the one who does the DIY and the driving and the this and the that. And Fergus the one who does the making jelly or whatever. Like, children will require what they require, and we will give them what they require. So, I mean, for me, and my kids are thriving, so I get upset when people talk about that a little bit, because the world is not ideal, and I don't see that as an ideal, actually. I mean, I see that they are being reared in an incredibly loving situation. Yeah,
sure. Well,
dealing with all the needs.
Yeah.
No, dealing with all the needs and requirements that they have. They have loads of role models. I mean, we don't live in isolation either. It's not like that they don't have uncles or they don't have male role models. Of course they do. We live in family contexts. So.
But can I put something to you, and I mean this in the most respectful way, but if for example something was to happen, God forbid something was to happen to my wife, there are certain roles that she performs as a parent that I just know I wouldn't be anywhere near as good as performing as she would be. And I presume I hope the same would hold if, and some of that is...
Perhaps that is not about your gender, it's about you two as different people, because for us, I feel it's about us two as different people. We definitely perform different roles with our children, there's no question about that. And we perform them as adequately as we can, and we struggle as parents like every parent does. So,
Conor, do you want to come in on that one?
Sure. I think we're getting a better understanding of what it actually means to be male and female in the world, and I think that the differences between men and women are vastly overemphasized, and ultimately, and Dr. Pillinger can probably talk a bit more about this, but really it's about the love between parents, the love for the kids, the compassion that's there, and not about the difference in gender between the parents that makes good families. Good families are all about raising kids well, regardless of the circumstances.
Okay.
So I think assuming heterosexual parents are better, I might have a family eventually with my fiance, and if we happen to raise kids well, it's probably not because we're straight.
Okay. Last word to you on this, Dr. Pillinger. We're just almost out of time.
Maybe just very, very quickly, just to say that, I mean, all of the evidence points to the fact that children require loving, caring relationships that give them security and safety. That's the bottom line. Issues around poverty and disadvantage are massive issues in terms of children's well-being and livelihoods. So actually, sometimes those kind of indicators are far more important in terms of outcomes for children. And I must say, one of the speakers at the conference today, Dr. Fiona Tasker from Birkbeck College, has done a huge amount of research evaluating all of the studies that have been carried out on this, and carried out some very detailed studies herself. She's an international expert on this issue. And her overall conclusion at the conference is that there is no discernible difference between gay, lesbian, heterosexual families.
Okay.
They parent in diverse and multiple ways, and there are no differences. There are other factors that impact on those differences.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thanks to Dr. Jane Pillinger, co-author of that study, Linda Cullen, who's raising twin girls within a same-sex relationship, and also Conor Prendergast, who joined us on the line from London. Lots more to come on The Right Hook. Stay with me.